Hello and welcome to Kev's English Podcast, Real English every week with your host Kev Dean.
Hello, it's Kevin here. Welcome to Kev's English Podcast, brought to you by theEnglishNative.com. Well, it's still me. It's Kev, but anyway. So, this is episode 37. I'm sorry it's been a week or two since my last episode, but I've been pretty busy. Many students on italki, as always, and I did some teacher training courses about artificial intelligence for educators. Something that I found very informative and something which I'll probably make an episode about. In fact, I'll make a note of that and I'll do that for my next podcast because I learned some very interesting things. And I know that AI in education for both teachers and students is going to be a major issue moving into the future. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about today is Chinese students in particular. Now, this is because I have many Chinese students on italki, but it's not just a Chinese issue, as I'll explain. So what is the problem? Well, I noticed, especially in the writing IELTS Task 2 essays, many students, not all, but quite a lot, have a lot of trouble in writing their essays. They contact me on italki, they say, Kev, I got 5.5, I got 6, 666, 5. And I noticed some commonalities, and there's something I wanted to work on here so I can help out. So, as I said, it's not just a problem with Chinese students. Students from all over the world struggle with generating ideas, thinking critically and building strong arguments for essays. That being said, because I get quite a lot of students from China, this is something I noticed, especially in the past 5 or 6 weeks. And it got me kind of thinking, it's not just about the English, it's not just about the linguistic component. Now, this is something that I noticed when I was reading their essays. And in fact, in the classroom, a lot of my students, they actually said this. They confessed or admitted. They said, Kev, I just have no ideas. I just can't think of anything. I've no ideas. I have no examples. So even if their grammar and vocab are good, a lot of it is task response. Because when you're writing an essay, you've got grammar, vocab, cohesion, coherence. And the first one, which the examiners assess first, is task response. So, as I said, IELTS Writing Task 2, it's not just about grammar and vocab, it's about understanding the prompt correctly interpreting it, because all these questions have been written to a purpose. All right, it's not random. They've been written, they've been tested, etc. So it's about understanding the prompt, looking at different perspectives, looking at one side, at the other side, building balanced, supported arguments and using relevant, concrete, specific examples. And this is where a lot of students not only from China, as I said, others. I'm actually doing a comparative research with one of my former associates in Turkey, and I'll be talking more about that in a future episode. So, the first one, misreading the prompt. Students often take prompts too narrowly. For example, let's say about a perfect society, one student only wrote about one aspect, education, ignoring politics, culture, economics, or competition versus cooperation. They always say cooperation is better. There's no counter arguments. It's not laziness, it's the education system. And this is in other countries as well. Exams like the Gaokao in China, İDESE and so on in Turkey, and I can't remember that Russian one, but it's when you've got education systems that are focused on exams, and certain exams you have to have rigid answers, there's just one answer, a memorization, right? So you have to memorize facts and figures by kind of rote. So abstract opinion-based prompts like in IELTS just aren't practiced. So students have a lot of trouble. Also, one-sided arguments. Another common issue, they only put one side forward. Cooperation is better, but there's no counterpoint. Even with the grammar, essays usually max out at 6 for task response. The problem isn't English, it's how to think critically. Another thing is examples. Somebody wrote something about teamwork improves efficiency, like helping a cat escape a tree, and in China, people with no context. So examiners want concrete, relevant examples. A lot of times, students use examples that don't fit, they just don't actually suit. Another thing is over-reliance on templates. Now, this kind of might come in for my future episode on artificial intelligence, because depending on what you ask it to do, it will produce an essay based on a template, and a lot of templates don't work. So they're using some templates, and you always get stuff like, and I did make an episode about this 2 or 3 weeks back about phrases to avoid. So you can go and take a listen to that. But stuff like, in the contemporary era, this issue of so-and-so is a contentious issue, blah, blah, blah, So they've got all these template phrases. And, it just doesn't work. So why is this? The question was, what are the factors? So the issue is, apparently, a lack of critical thinking. Not only with Chinese, as I keep saying, I'm not picking on China, other countries, and I'm doing a comparative research with some students in Turkey. So it'll be interesting to see what that shows. So what are the factors? So you've got cultural factors and pedagogical factors. So the main thing is the exam focus of teaching. It's memorization. So critical thinking is not considered. There's some socio-political issues too. In the classroom, sensitive topics are avoided. English is used as a tool, not a cultural subject. English is framed as a particular tool to tell the story of China. Cultural norms, respect for authority, for the teacher's authority, conformity, one-sided arguments. So what all this kind of does, it reduces practice in critical thinking, which is exactly one of the skills that IELTS is looking for. And when you consider that most of you taking IELTS are going for study abroad, especially postgraduate, you're going to need this critical thinking. Because if you write your essays in the same way that you write your IELTS essays, your professors are not going to be very happy. So I did a study. I had about 20 essays. I'm looking for more, but I'll talk about that at the end. So I did a concordance, I did a textual analysis of 20 students, 20 essays, and linguistics aside, it was the same thing. Students stuck to one safe angle, binary reasoning, this is good, this is bad, templates recycled. So it's critical thinking. It's critical thinking. That's the issue. It's like I say, my students have actually said this, right? It's, they actually said, oh, Kev, I don't understand. I don't have any ideas, But what research has shown suggested. And there's been quite a lot of it. I'll put a link to some of the articles in the transcript. So if you're listening on iTalki, you can go to theenglishnative.com and there'll be a transcript for this episode and for every episode. And I'll put the research articles at the bottom. You can have a listen to those. Sorry, a listen. You can have a listen to this and read the script and check out the research articles if you want. So, what can we do? Well, what can we do? What can I do? What can you do? What I do in my lessons on iTalki is I help students to think about what is the question really asking, unpacking the prompt, word by word analysis. What exactly is this question about? What's all the different angles? I get them to think of arguments, if you agree or disagree, what's your counterpoints, and why we go through specific realistic examples based on, as every essay says, your own knowledge and experience. And we debate, we discuss, we consider. So that's what you can do yourself or in the classroom with me if you want to book a lesson. Now, the final thing, my research. So I have a research instrument. I'll put that in the transcript as well if you want to download that. See exactly how my research instrument works. You can check my research and findings. So if you want to get involved, what I am doing, and one of my students put an advertisement on Xiaohongshu on Red Note asking for participants. I'm collecting essays, so I need people to send me essays and to do interviews to get a better idea of this issue of critical thinking. I've got the hypothesis, as I say, which is it's based on several factors, mainly classroom issues, but other things too. So I've got the hypothesis. So to test it out, I need a larger sample size. I need more essays, more students to interview. And I'm going to be doing the same with a group of Turkish students also taking IELTS in Turkey. We're going to synthesize all this, do quantitative and qualitative analysis, and hopefully, in the not too distant future, I'll write it all up into an article for publication. So, hope that helps. So, what else? So, in summary then, whatever country, if you've got issues with critical thinking, a lot of the reason for low IELTS writing scores, it's not just about grammar or vocab. A lot of it is about critical thinking. Misinterpreting the prompt, one-sided arguments, weak examples. But the good news is this can be solved. Okay? So if you want to know more, contact me here at iTalki. Or if you're listening on Spotify, you can send me a message there. If you're listening on YouTube or on my EnglishNative.com, you can send me a message. And if you want to help out with my research, feel free to do so. Okay, that's enough for today. It's about 14 minutes. Excellent. Because I've got my first lesson of the day starting in 5 minutes' time. So I'll call it quits. Hope you find this informative and feel free to contact me anytime. Okay, bye for now.